one of the things that Democrats have really failed to do is create permission structures that allow people an avenue to belong.
Yes.
And at times when it feels like the pop culture is against you or the headwinds are against you, and we've talked a lot on this show about how the pop culture, like the meta pop culture of this country, is supporting Donald Trump or Trump-like values, you have to create, as organizers, we have to create opportunities for people to feel like they are not alone.
Welcome, everyone, to Twig and Jenkins, your bi-weekly hang with your favorite politically codependent besties. My name is Brad Jenkins.
I'm Carri Twig.
And we have a lot to cover, as per usual. We just had the historic No Kings protest, the largest protest in American history. 7 million people took to the streets. Where were you during No Kings, Twig?
I was here in DC, man. Yeah. I was in the street.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your, I mean, you've participated in many massive rallies, protests in your formative political years. Like, where would you rank No Kings?
The vibes were high. Yeah. I think that one of the things that I think is really cool about No Kings and really just this era in general is how theatrical people are being. Sure. And how like absurdist this all is. I think when I compare it to things like the Women's March or other things, there was a degree of kind of sanctimony that was that existed 10 years ago that doesn't exist now. Mm-hmm. And a level of frank talk and a level of aggressiveness in the fun way, but also absurdity, you know? And so I think that the flavor of it was really different, even if energetically it was as energetic as anything I've ever been a part of. And I'm not a huge protest gal, mm-hmm. Like, I'm down, I'll boycott, I'll do the things, but I've never like loved doing a march. Mm-hmm. Big crowds, really loud, just like a lot. But I always try and go at least for a little bit. And I was really happy to go just again, to check the vibe, see what the mood is. Yeah. I think it's really encouraging. And I know that a lot of people have gotten a little, you know, I saw a lot coming from the left about like, this isn't actually a protest. This is a rally, mm-hmm. and rallies and protests are different things. And I hear all of that, and it's not wrong. And I think we have to really do what we can to bring more people in and give people more ways to participate and give openings for more people to participate. And I think the tone of No Kings was like spot on.
It was. I think it was wildly, in my humble opinion, I think it was wildly successful. Totally. I think given what Trump and his allies, Mike Lee and, did I say Mike Lee?
You
Not
really
the
did.
senator of Utah. But like Stephen Miller and JD and all of these folks were focused in on was how do we paint these protesters as Hamas terrorists, as anarchists, as anti-fascists. And what it really looked like were like a whole bunch of old ladies with their Costco and their Kroger cards, like just out there being normal Americans and being fired up and wearing silly, to your point, wearing silly outfits and using humor, using satire, using joy and love, like dancing. I saw a lot of inflatable costumes. I feel like the inflatables really, if you are in the inflatable costume business in this moment, business must be booming. Because if you think about 7 million took to the streets, I would say at least 1 million of the 7 were in an inflatable costume.
There is some really good ones.
There was great ones. And so to that end, I think it was wildly successful. The other part for me as a dad, it felt very family oriented. Yeah. There were children. I thought it was strategic to have the protest from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern on a Saturday. Like that is prime. Noon to 3. Oh, okay. I thought it was 10 to noon or noon to 3. But that is just like prime family time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That is meant for people who have very busy lives. They can still participate in this, right? And it felt very community driven. And that is the distinction between a protest and a rally,
Yeah,
right? A rally is meant to quite literally rally a community and show solidarity and for everyone to be able to participate and everyone to be involved. And that's actually what we need in this moment.
totally.
I think we need more rallies than protests in this moment. And the last thing I'll say, so the people saying, I don't know, that we need more protests, I don't think that it's an either or.
Totally.
And from a PR, marketing, branding perspective, I thought that, the Democratic Party did not plan this because you could tell because it was very well branded. But like, if the Democratic Party were branding this would be a wild success for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Like, these are the kinds of things that Democrats need to be doing a lot more of. Not, community, light, not always like doom and gloom, not always what we're against, but like the signs and the vibes. Although it was called No Kings, I still felt like it was more about who we are as opposed to what they are, So I give A+. I also sadly was not at a No Kings rally. So I say all of those things to say that I was at Stanford Law School for my wife's reunion, and there was no No Kings stuff on the Stanford Law campus, but 10 out of 10 from watching it on social media.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, this goes back. I worked on campaigns for a long time. You worked on campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that would always happen in states is there would be this very real tension, or at least I'll just speak to Ohio. There was a very, very real tension in the Obama campaigns, particularly in 07 and 08, where longtime politicos really wanted yard signs.
Of course.
And all the Barack Obama staffers and operatives were like, yard signs don't vote, and would push back on this like thirst and demand that county chairs and people in communities had for yard signs. And I always thought that was such a strategic mistake on the part of the Obamas. And I get it. It was like a very data and analytics heavy campaign, and yard signs are not people and therefore cannot vote. And yet they create a permission structure. And one of the things that Democrats have really failed to do is create permission structures that allow people an avenue to belong.
Yes.
And at times when it feels like the pop culture is against you or the headwinds are against you, and we've talked a lot on this show about how the pop culture, like the meta pop culture of this country, is supporting Donald Trump or Trump-like values, you have to create, as organizers, we have to create opportunities for people to feel like they are not alone,
Yes.
that they can be part of something, that they can belong to something, that the number of people who agree with them and who are doing something is far more significant than the number of people who are not, that they are not alone on an island, right? And that's where symbolism really matters. And that's where things like yard signs, things like rallies, things like small rallies in small towns around the country, having No Kings protests or No Kings whatever events, really, really come to start shifting the perception of who is winning and who is not, and whether or not winning is even possible again. And so, to your point, I think creating an environment that feels like, oh my God, that looked cool. Like I can take my kids there. My neighbors are there.
Yeah.
You can go there and have a good time. You can go there and see people in inflatable costumes is so incredibly, incredibly valuable. And like, we need to get back to that really sort of that signaling to other people that you are a part of a community and that you're not alone, that the whole world hasn't gone against you, that the whole world doesn't support Donald Trump.
Yes.
Pete Buttigieg says this a lot. It's just like his support is weaker than you think it is.
Yes.
It's just so loud and so brash that it takes up so much more space. But we have great numbers on our side.
We do. And again, it completely defeats their argument, right? Their argument, a lot of this comes down to almost a permission structure for, they want violence. They want altercation. They want to invade blue cities. They want the National Guard to be in every blue city in America. And what's one way to beat that? By not having one single arrest in New York City during No Kings Day. because the vast
I think
majority.
There was one. I think
there was one? Okay.
Or there was a meme about one, but it was definitely somebody in a stuffy outfit.
I was going to say, were they...
And it wasn't like,
a man in a pink polo throwing a sandwich? Were they an
American
inflatable
hero.
Tyrannosaurus Rex? We don't know what it is. But again, it undercuts this vision that is propagated not just by Republican members of Congress, but the entire rights ecosystem, that the only people that do not like Donald Trump are terrorists and are, anti-fascists and are crazy people. And it's like, no. Here are all of the receipts. Like, look at these images of joy. Look at these images of community and laughter and hilarity. Like, the signs were, I think we should probably, this could be a separate piece of content, like top 10 signs for No King's Day. They were so good and they were heartfelt. Not all of them were funny. A lot of them, I do think, were in a moment where, again, community is so important. And, it's not just all shits and giggles. Like, there's very real community organizing happening as well. Yeah. Right. And there is a real purpose and there's a real mission to No Kings. But I think the most important thing that it did is exactly what you said. It's just built community. Right.
And one thing I think we just have to keep in mind, and again, we should try and get somebody from, whether it's Indivisible or ACLU, to come on and talk about No Kings and the very specific organizing tactics that like go beyond it and go behind it. I think people underestimate how sophisticated organizers really are, like, and what it takes to pull something like this off, not only logistically, but from like building a campaign's really sophisticated. It's like an art form, and I think we should talk more about that. And I think one of the things that we need to figure out in this moment is, when I think back on Black Lives Matter, when I think back on Occupy, how there were specific choices and intentional choices made about how those movements were going to unfold and what they were going to build or not build, what they were going to say or not say, how they were going to be run, how they were going to be led or not led. And I'm really curious about, now that we have this momentum that's galvanizing in such a specific way, what some of the organizers behind the scenes are thinking about in terms of like leadership, right?
100%.
We know that we can't rely on Congress. We know that we can't rely exclusively on elected officials or past civic leaders or what have you. And so it's really a responsibility of the people. And so how does a moment like Saturday ladder into protests, into boycotts, into electoral victories like we're going to see in New Jersey and Virginia and in like specials that are happening around the country?
I couldn't agree more. You notice that to go to one of the primary objectives from the organizer's perspective that I saw is that you sign up to be a part of it. This is not, you're signing up because we want a list. There should be, this is a list building, community building exercise, right? Which is very different from a protest, right? This is a list building exercise. And to your point, what is the next step? And how does it ladder up? And with that list, do we bring up the government shutdown? We are in day number 20. What day are we in of the government shutdown?
Well,
I don't even know.
There's something I wanted to segue to before.
Go for it.
El shutdown arena, which was, you were telling me that there was some sort of video.
Oh shit!
Was it like crowd size video or?
It was an AI video.
Okay.
It was like a Sora. I mean, it literally had the Sora watermark on the video. Carrie Twigg is not on, the internets as much as I am. Apparently, she did not see this. Donald Trump posted a AI Sora video of him, an AI
so
version of him.
Okay,
so he opted in.
Mm-hmm.
In a fighter jet flying over New York City, dropping mutant-sized pieces of shit onto No King's protesters.
Stop it.
And the video, yes, this is a real thing that happened. This is not Idiocracy. This is not a Mike Judge film. This is not
latest South Park.
We are exactly latest South Park. And in fact, the AI generated video, someone must have included a specific prompt of a real human, which is this kid, Harry Sisson, who's like a progressive TikToker. So the piece of shit falls on Harry Sisson in Times Square. And it has, I don't know how many, 20 million views on Twitter and across social media platforms. To which Harry responds to the president, sort of calling out the press secretary's response that the president, of course, approves of peaceful protesters, but yet is promoting an AI video where he's dropping shit on peaceful protesters. This was the discourse on Twitter yesterday and this morning. JD Vance responded to this child and said he was going to ask the president about the video. But this is the world of AI.
But like in a mocking way?
In a mocking way.
Yeah.
In a mocking way. I mean, and let's just like be very clear about this, right? The president of the United States and JD Vance, like, could you imagine President Obama doing something even remotely close to something like this? And they switched tactics. So this is the thing, right? Like, the tactic before this was to call this the Hate America Tour.
Yeah.
The tactic before this is to say this is about terrorists and anti-fascists and people that are trying to destroy the fabric of America. Once they realize that that's not what this was, what do? They turn to comedy, and they're just like making fun of and owning the libs by posting this dumb video. So this is like not new. The president did something similar during Gaza, where he posted this like Gaza Riviera video of himself and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The sombrero
video. Like, we're now living in an age where the president on a daily basis is posting straight up AI. I don't even know if the term is misinformation, but what would you call that? AI.
I mean, listen, they're narrative devices.
Like, AI narrative devices.
Like, they are narrative devices.
Yeah.
And I obviously have critiques about the president, but the guy is really, really good at telling a story, and we underestimate him at his peril and at our peril. And yes, it's crass and unseemly. And of course, no president other than him would have done it, you know?
Maybe President Gav would do it.
Maybe now. I mean, I think that is an open question. Yeah. The open question is, absent a Trump-like figure to be in response to, will this type of politics continue?
Right.
I think no matter what, we know for a fact that the politics of attention is going to continue, right? The politics of like running your administration, running a reality show alongside your administration, and the politics of entertainment is not going to disappear the minute Trump does. President Trump is no longer in office. But I think the lowest brow version of it, that he's the real peddler and will, but the question is like, how effective is it? And who's willing to pay attention to it? Who's willing to ignore it? Who's willing to like who won't even know that it happened because it's not the part of the internet that they're in. Like Trump, that's one of the things that Trump does really well, is he takes full advantage of the fact that there is a fractured media landscape, right? And I think that we are so hand-wringy about it as Democrats because we want a unified media field. We want everyone to be getting the same information still, and we're like pining for that time and refusing to accept the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously more and more with each passing day, but we are still sort of pining for this former era where people could get information from 3 different places and it all largely resembled one another. Whereas Trump is so far down the road in understanding how to leverage the fractured media landscape to his advantage.
Yeah. And the strategy in and of itself, right? The major reason why Obama would never do that is because we would be reminded every day that he is the president of the United States of America. And while, of course, you know, when you're in political season, you're in campaign season, the overwhelming sense or the overwhelming narrative when working at the White House is that we are there to persuade. So we're treating everyone as if they are a part of what we're trying to reach.
You're not there to persuade, you're there to serve. Like
Serve,
first
yes,
and foremost,
100%.
you are there to serve.
100%. Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon you incumbent upon an administration to then, in service of the people, try and persuade them to what you think is the right thing.
Yes.
But but first and foremost, like you are there to serve.
So given that, like if we were to put our old White House hats on, right? Imagine that there was a No King's Day. You know, there were versions of this, like
Absolutely.
the Tea Party movement, et cetera, right? The response from our White House would not be to create an AI video where we're shitting on Tea Party protesters and saying that these people are clowns, right? Like our perspective
Barack Obama
was
a serious person.
Of course,
okay?
of course.
Like,
of course.
Who else would do that?
But it is a what I'm trying to say is like, it is a strategy that for all intents and purposes has served this president well.
Totally.
It works.
Totally.
Right? It works to run your White House as if you were only serving the people that are loyal to you. And the people that are not loyal to you, you literally and figuratively are shitting on from a fighter jet, right? It's the most popular protest in American history. And what you're saying to that narrative is, I don't give a shit. I'm going to shit on you and what you stand for and what you believe in. And what that does is it builds you even more loyalty among your base. Your base loves that shit, right?
And this is what I was saying about the fractured media landscape, right?
Yeah.
The base that responds positively to that, thanks to the algorithm, is going to get served that. The part of the base that doesn't respond to that at all isn't ever going to see it. And will have moved on.
Good point.
And so like he takes advantage of the fact that you can reach people in silos and you can be a lot of different guys,
right,
depending on who your base is, because they're not comparing notes. Like, people who are watching CBS News aren't the same people who are watching Aiden Ross, right? Like that overlap is really low. I'm sure that there's some, but so he really is smart to take advantage of all of that. But everything you just said just now makes sense to me why this clip of AOC was resurfaced, or maybe it's a relatively recent clip where she was basically saying the difference between me and Bernie, or politicians like her, like Bernie and President Trump, are that no matter what, I want you to have health care.
Yes.
But President Trump, if you didn't vote for him, if you don't support him, he doesn't want good things to happen to you.
No.
And like that is such a damning thing to say. And I'm so happy that she articulated. We should show some of that clip now.
I think it also speaks to a big difference between someone like Trump and someone like me or someone like Bernie, which is that Trump believes that if you don't vote for him, he doesn't have to be your leader. That if you didn't vote for him, that you don't deserve good things to happen to you. I don't care if someone voted for me or not. I don't care if someone is a Republican or an independent or a Democrat. I don't care if someone likes me or not. That will never change the fact that I'm going to fight for them to have health care. I want MAGA to have health care. I want MAGA to be paid a living wage. But he doesn't want people who are Democrats, or he doesn't want people based on their political affiliation to benefit. And that is the difference between a strongman and an authoritarian and a leader of a democracy.
But it's such an important thing for us to continue to reinforce, because that's actually, like, Americans have all sorts of disagreements. They have all sorts of differences. And yet we are such a country that's oriented towards, at least conceptually, the concept of fairness.
Yes.
And I think that she really intuited an important thing that we should really try and be thoughtful in building a bunch of content around and saying every chance we get, which is that guy, if you don't like Donald Trump, he doesn't want good things to happen to you.
Yes.
And is that really what you would want in a leader?
Yes. Well, especially considering so much of their strategy, both media narrative wise and policy wise, is attacking cities, attacking urban areas, and the major reason why, and Trump has said it very loudly, is because he says they don't vote for me, right? So you're right. Like this feeling of punishing those, like the only people I care about are the people that vote for me is, again, I mean, if we can go back in the Wayback Machine and sort of like, that would be the third rail for any candidate. Like the art of politics, the way that we grew up, is that there is, there are people on the left, there are people on the right, and then there's this like persuadable middle, right? Who don't really care about political party, but they are transactional and they care about, well, who is the candidate that's actually going to be the best for me, regardless of who I stand for, regardless of if I'm a Republican or a Democrat. And you would think, especially for young people who continuously, day after day or week after week, are registering as independents, they're not registering as Republicans or Democrats. I do think this kind of video really does turn off young people. It does. Like, it's funny.
Some.
For shits and giggles, it's funny. But I think, again, this is maybe projecting or still having an iota of hope. It just doesn't, it's just not a good look.
I don't know, man.
You
Listen,
disagree?
I haven't seen any data on this, but if you're 18, you're 20, half of your life has been this politics.
Yeah, true.
Your consciousness, this has been a part of it.
This is just what it is.
It is just not as far of a departure for you. If you don't remember the Obama era, if you don't remember the Bush era, like, this isn't that much of a departure.
Yeah, good point.
So I actually don't know how true that would be.
And that's the question we keep bringing up, right? Which is, can we go back to the old times, right?
No.
Which is to say, if this is the standard, young people from this age on, they want more AI videos of presidents and fighter jets dropping shit on people. Like, is that where we're at in our politics?
I don't think so. I think that will always represent a hyperbolic zone within politics. But that's sort of what I meant when I said I don't see a sunset on the politics of entertainment.
Got it. Yeah.
No matter what, every single elected official is going to have to find a way to hold the attention of the American people. And to do so, you have to be entertaining, because our entertainment has gotten so ubiquitous and so good. So no matter who you are, if you don't have followers, if you don't have a platform, if you can't figure out how to interact with media or social in a way that reaches an audience, not everyone can do short form, not everyone can do long form, but if you're not figuring out what works for you in a way that you can build a platform and hold people's attention, you are not going to succeed in this political era. You're just not. And so that needs to be something that's taken really, really seriously. If you don't have followers, if you don't have a podcast, if you're not writing on Substack, if you're not using these platforms as a way of reaching people on your own terms, it's not going to work. And so I think that Trump will always represent a very specific style and tone that I think will go in and out of fashion. But I think from a structural standpoint, politics of entertainment is... It's like we are in an attention economy. And if you cannot hold people's attention, views and votes are correlated. If you cannot get views, if you cannot get people to pay attention to you over the course of a period of time, how can you lead people?
Couldn't agree more. Speaking of people holding people's attention, the government shutdown is in its, I believe, 21st day. We're already sort of encroaching and going, by next week, we'll already be getting close to the longest government shutdown, which was the original Trump shutdown of, I believe, 30 some days. Speaking of something not holding people's attention, this is not holding anyone's attention.
Right? It is not in the zeitgeist.
It is not trending. It is not even leading like cable news programs. It's not leading nightly news programs. It's certainly not leading political podcasts. It was not even close to the signs I saw from No Kings Day. Like, I was curious if that was going to be something that the No Kings folks tackled, especially considering there were a number of elected officials at a lot of these rallies, right? Like you saw our boy Senator Kim in Jersey City. You saw Corey out there. You saw all these people out there in DC. You had Bernie. I don't think I heard the government shutdown brought up at all.
To be fair, I didn't listen to the speeches.
But like, where are we at? We were just at, we were with the senator last week. It was so awesome to be able to get the straight from the horse's mouth where things stood. The urgency and the seriousness of what is happening, how many people are missing paychecks, who are being furloughed, who are working without pay, how people are missing now benefits, whether it's the subsidies increasing, SNAP benefits being reduced. Like, people are going to feel it in their pocketbooks if they haven't already felt it. What is happening, Twig? Why isn't this more of in the zeitgeist? Why isn't there more pressure being put upon members of Congress?
Because we don't control culture. Because we don't control culture, and because we consistently lose the attention economy, right? Yeah. President Trump is extraordinarily good at getting people's attention and holding people's attention and driving media cycles. And he has made sure to divert attention away from a government shutdown. Democrats are not great as literally Democrats on the Hill, congressional Democrats are not good at holding people's attention.
Yep.
They're just not.
Period.
The Democratic Party is not filling that gap, right? And so No Kings, which is built outside of traditional Democratic infrastructure, was able to galvanize a lot of time, tension, behavior, energy from people. But it's not about the shutdown. Like, that was long planned. It was planned before the shutdown. It's not actually about the shutdown. And so...
Was that a mistake, do you think, though? Could there have been... and by the way, I like a lot of these, I'll also say this just from watching it from an outsider's perspective, but we had a new from ACLU on and who helped plan the first No Kings Day. And she did explain to us, too, that a lot of these, especially on the indivisible side as well, like a lot of these protests take form really from the ground up, right? So depending on where these protests are, the agenda is driven by who's actually putting it together, right? Like the assemblage of speakers, the issues that they bring up. And so, traditionally, a lot of times it's top down. We're like, okay, these are the things we're going to talk about, right? It did not look like for me that the government shutdown was a major priority item from either a national perspective or a local perspective.
No, and I don't think it should have been.
Yeah, okay.
Because what if it didn't go ahead? What if it got resolved? And so then you have all this momentum that you're building for No Kings, and then it just goes nowhere, or it's no longer relevant. And besides, trust between the general public and Democrats is at an all-time low.
Yes.
Trust between Democratic activists and the Democratic Party is low.
Yes.
Right? And so I don't know that you would have seen that kind of energy if you knew that Leader Schumer and Leader Jeffries were in charge.
Very good point.
Like, maybe, but I seriously doubt it.
You may notice that the DC rally, which I believe was the biggest rally, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer were not invited to speak at. And that is a strategic choice. You may also notice, we may run this clip or not, that Brute, which is this interesting Instagram profile or platform, they actually were interviewing protesters at the DC rally, of all places too, in DC, and they were just asking people what they thought of the Democratic Party.
In one word, I would describe the Democratic Party as spineless.
Weak. Cowardice.
Disappointing.
Shameful.
Crying.
Useless.
Awesome.
Weak.
Incompetent.
Let down. Spineless.
The Democratic Party, in one word, lost.
And of course, you can decide how to clip it, and you can decide what remarks you want to throw in a video like that.
Oof.
But yeah, for anyone thinking, for any particularly like Democratic Party operatives or Democratic Party members thinking that No Kings is some representation of, all these people came out, we're now going to win all of these elections, these special elections and these midterms. I wouldn't count your chickens. A lot of the people were equally angry at Republicans and Democrats. There was a lot of rage at both parties. There was a lot of rage at both parties for the war. There was a lot of rage at both parties for the government shutdown. There was a lot of rage at both parties for inaction on gun violence. Just go down the list of things that are not happening for the American people. And I agree with you. It actually reminds me of the vibe from, remember Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart's rally to restore sanity, where you would, which happened here in DC. But at the time, I remember Democratic Party folks and the DNC being so angry because they felt like there should be more like pro-Democratic Party messaging, and it should be like include sort of voter list and like acquisition and something for the Democratic Party. And the Comedy Central folks at the time, but also just the general vibe of that was like, then it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Then the rally would not have accomplished
Yeah.
what we were trying to accomplish, right? Like there's a time and a place for that. And I agree with you that the fact that No Kings did not make it about the Democratic Party first was a really smart and successful strategy.
I completely forgot about that example, and it just really speaks to this really deep-seated flaw at home in the Democratic Party, that of just entitlement.
Yeah, totally.
We feel entitled. If you are an entertainer, we think all of the things that you create and all of the things you do should be for us and should be to support us. If you are young, if you're Black or you're brown or you're whatever, we feel like we are entitled to your vote. Like there is that characteristic.
Yeah.
That like personality type that has really kind of infected the party in a way. And it's just like, hopefully it's going away, because it's like,
I honestly don't think it's.
Well, it needs to.
It needs to go away.
It really needs to.
It needs to go away.
It's not how it works.
It's true.
It's not how it works. And it's meaning, and it's preventing us from building. It's preventing the party from building the things it should build.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like the party should have already had a media infrastructure that it could have relied on. The party should have already had a social first digital strategy. The party should have a set of relationships that allow it to coexist more symbiotically with the far left and with activist movements and with organizations. And it shouldn't be as adversarial as it is, but But you have to build those things.
You do, but you also have to be. There is. You put it perfectly. What was the word you used? There's a sense of like ownership or entitlement.
All of these things mean that we haven't done the work of ensuring that we have the kind of symbiotic relationships with entertainment, with culture, with actual demographics of people, with activists, with movements that allow for the Democrats to be a meaningful part of moments like No Kings.
Yes, agreed. And I think that there is opportunity too, right? I think that one of the things it reminded me, I know we just talked about the rally to restore sanity, Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart's thing. And at that moment when Democrats were being pissy about it, it's like in that moment I thought, well, look, take advantage of it, right? And just like for Democrats right now with the No Kings, yes, there's no Democratic branding. Yes, they did not talk about the government shutdown. But you know what? Use that content to talk about the government shutdown, right? Like do your own storytelling, like use that momentum and build a new narrative from the fact that communities are coming together. And so anyway, this is something that we have talked about ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I think that there are candidates who have recognized the moment. I think there are candidates who are like riding this wave of populism and anger. One of those candidates is Graham Platner running for Senate in Maine. You have to walk me through this, Twig, because you and I were texting before recording. I saw the apology, a very heartfelt, beautiful apology, almost like 4 to 5 minute apology on Twitter and social media. This is a candidate who's had a very ascendant outsider campaign. He's outraising his opponent, Susan Collins, who is like almost legendary figure in Maine. is out raising her and out polling her. He's up like 12 points on her right now in the most recent Maine poll. But there's some controversy, and I didn't know. You got to walk me through what happened.
Yeah, remember when we were recording a couple days ago, it was like some oppo just dropped on him.
Right.
That there, and I think I said they were tweets, but they were actually, they're actually Reddit posts. And so a couple different things. One is, and we see this happen to candidates, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, Democrats have not been good enough about building their own communication networks. They expect everyone to do it for them, right? Yes. And so whether it's the party, whether it's Schumer, whether it's the Collins campaign, whether it's Janet Mills, who is now challenging Graham Platner in that primary, a bunch of oppo gets dropped up on Graham Platner, resurfacing Reddit posts that he made that are really angry, right? Yeah. They're like really inconsistent with the guy he's been campaigning as. And so they're just sort of dumped. And then everyone, whoever is responsible for leaking them, it's just like, we got him now. And Graham, because he has been steadfastly building an audience and building a community and telling people who he is on his own terms, does exactly that, right? Looks direct to camera and is like, let me give you some context about who the guy was that wrote that. I had just gotten back from tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I was lonely. I was disconnected. I was isolated. I was disillusioned. And like, I unequivocally apologize for everything that I said, right? Yeah. And it very much sounds like, we talk a lot about the male loneliness crisis. It very much just sounds like that. It's like a young, angry, disillusioned, isolated dude who doesn't trust anybody, doesn't love anybody, doesn't think anybody loves him. You know, people can go and look up his comments, but there was some, you know, pretty upsetting stuff. Yeah. But nothing that I think he didn't perfectly articulate the reasons for. And I know, I mean, I've said things this week that I probably wish I could take back, but his approach to it and his ability to basically end the entire controversy of it is because he has built a relationship with his constituency, and he has built a platform for himself to be able to explain who he is and why he's doing what he's doing.
And trust, too.
And
the huge part.
Right? And so I read all the Reddit comments. I watched his video. I encourage anyone to watch it. Maybe we'll clip some of it here.
Hey all, it's Graham here. As you've probably seen, there's a story that's broken about comments I made on Reddit in an earlier part of my life. As I read through them, I read things that I absolutely do not agree with. I read through and I see things words and statements that I abhor. I also see the trajectory of my life. When I got back from Afghanistan in 2011, I stayed in the Army for another year. I got out in 2012. Some of the worst comments I made, the things that I think are least defensible, that I wouldn't even try to defend, come from that time.
One of the things he's doing here that I think is so interesting is and that we don't get in politics very often, is he's talking about evolution. Yes. He's talking about like, I can change. I did change. Yeah. I am an example of what can happen when you reconnect with community, when you reconnect with people, when you find someone to love and that loves you, when you reorient your life towards service. Yeah. And at a time when so many people are feeling incredibly let down by the systems that surround them, incredibly let down by society, by communities, incredibly disillusioned by how poorly things are running, or like you thought somebody would be in charge, or you thought somebody cared, or you thought whatever, or you had a breakup with a friend or a person, like Graham stepping in and being like, I'm a leader who understands that and can help show you the way out of that, I think is going to be really, really powerful. And the people who thought that they were going to get one over on him by dropping this oppo, I think just made him 1,000 times stronger.
I think it's backfiring. I agree. I think he becomes even more true to the original viral video that came out, right? Which is, if you think about laddering up to that video where it's a town hall and there's someone who says, what about these illegal immigrants getting healthcare? And then the whole room erupts against this person. And Graham is the one who's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
He didn't give up on that person.
Yep.
You know, and I think that you're right. That apology video is so beautiful. I didn't really know the context of the comments. So I was kind of watching. I'm like, what did he say?
Yeah. How bad was it?
How bad was it? Is the only thing
It's not great.
the sort of political acumen of this stuff is like, you always want to know.
It's not It's not Republican staffer bad.
Right. Okay, great. Good to know, because that's pretty bad. So there was no mention of like Nazis and monkeys.
No, I love
okay.
no gleefully talking about gas chambers.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. But you're right. The piece that I found very moving was his reflection and him saying, if you look at the chronology of this post, you can see my evolution.
Yeah.
I become less angry. And then I get off Reddit, right? Like, he's like, I stopped posting on Reddit. You know why? Because I had a real community. I had someone in my life that I loved. And
yeah, it was
it's a beautiful little 4-minute thing. The thing I also loved about it, it was not well produced. It was not in some studio, right? It was just him outside with an iPhone. Like, the audio's not that good. The sun is shining in his eyes. Like, it's
the lighting's terrible.
Yeah. But again, that's the
matter.
point. It actually works better.
Totally.
Right. Is the point, right? It makes it more, I'm sure as soon as that hit, he's like, shit, to your point, I got to talk to my community, the community I trust about this. And I'm going to talk very honestly. I'm going to talk very plainly. I don't care that my lighting sucks. I don't care that the sound sucks. Like, I'm just going in and I'm going to say it. And I would not be surprised if donations go up. I would not be surprised if poll numbers go up.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's a lesson.
If the Mills campaign dropped that, like, they just got a real lesson in the politics of this moment.
I would not be surprised. I mean, the timing seems a little too convenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's a real anti-Katie Porter. You know what I mean?
It's an anti-Katie Porter. What? Yeah.
I know we haven't talked about Katie Porter.
We haven't.
I don't know if there's a reason to.
No, I mean, it is.
News.
Well, it is an interesting. I mean, speaking of public perception and speaking of, things coming out conveniently, that also seems very oppo driven, right? The release of this video that comes out right on the heels of her melting down similarly in an interview with someone.
Shows a pattern. And I haven't really seen her address that at all. Here's the difference, right? Like, this happens to Graham. He immediately responds to it. He immediately uses this a moment to actually tell his story better. Like, it became almost an entry point for people to learn more about him. Absolutely.
And like why he's running for office and why, his campaign is different than other campaigns.
And he is actually more qualified because of that evolution.
Oh,
he is actually more reflective of the kind of leadership we want because of those comments and his and the distance between who that man was and who this man in front of you is.
Right.
Can't say that about Katie.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, it's just never been brought up. There hasn't been, I mean, maybe, or to your point, maybe she hasn't built the mechanism to bring it up.
Think about it. She comes out and she's like, I'm sorry, that's not reflective of who I am. And then like a dozen more of those videos drop.
Exactly.
A dozen of staffers call up every reporter on background and are like, let me tell you about the time she did this and then she did this. And then like, there's probably.
Yeah, good point.
There was a stand-up comedian, and I love Joe Biden, but there's a stand-up comedian that was like, we've seen Joe Biden fall on a plane X number of times.
Sure.
So the number of times someone does something in public, how much is that happening behind the scenes, right? And it's like that was damning. That was really devastating stand-up bit that he did, and it went all over the place during the primaries. And I feel that way about Katie. It's just like she's not she can't do the Graham video.
Yeah.
Because what are you gonna like that was 2 weeks ago. That was yesterday. Like, you are that person. There's been no evolution. And if you say that it's not reflective of how you actually are, who you actually show up as most of the time, they're gonna drop so many videos. I'm sure there's so many staffers because that is not a first time occurrence.
It's a very good point.
That is not 2 of 2. We don't have every example of her losing her composure for nothing.
It's such a great point. I think that this is a really good segue to cancel culture. Twig and I saw our homie Ronnie Chang's new show with Hassan Minhaj here in DC. For those who haven't seen this show, immediately go buy a ticket. It was the most strangely entertaining, hilarious, provocative show I've seen in a very long time. It's two comedians at like the height of their powers just yelling at each other for an hour and a half. It's like rage filled. Of course it's theatrical and it's a whole bit, but like I believe what was the tagline? Like
it's Hassan hates Ronnie.
Hassan hates Ronnie.
Hates Hassan.
And no, but like what's the tagline underneath it? It's like hate sells or something.
Hate is the answer.
Hate is the answer. Hate is the answer. It's a brilliant show. But one of the interesting kind of like undercurrents of the show, speaking of cancel culture, is that Ronnie makes fun of Hassan throughout the show for being canceled from The Daily Show. There was I believe it was a New Yorker or
Atlantic,
New York Mag.
Or New Yorker, yeah.
There's a New Yorker feature on Hassan and his sort of meteoric rise. But in that article, I believe it was Claire Malone, the journalist that wrote this. Remember Claire Malone from 538? She pointed out sort of inconsistencies in Hassan's retelling of personal anecdotes in his like Emmy Award winning and all these Peabody Award winning comedy specials. And essentially the thrust of the piece was that Hassan was kind of like making up his narrative, right? And there was a lot of fiction in his comedy. And comedians, I think there is a certain level of like you're truth telling. And so if you're telling a personal anecdote, it needs to be 100%
which is
correct,
insane.
which is insane, which is absolutely insane.
This is not how it's ever worked.
That's not how it has ever worked.
I think it was because it was about his daughter and it was about 9/11.
In this Ronnie hates Hassan, Hassan hates Ronnie show, Ronnie makes fun of him for it throughout the show. Just makes fun of him for making up his history, being like not a real immigrant, being white. Like it's so great. And it's beautiful because there's this way of, you know, in times past, a quote unquote canceled comedian would never bring it up again and hope that the public would just forget it and hope that you just move on. But the way in which I think the two of them are kind of like stepping into it and talking about it and being open about this like very kind of embarrassing public scandal, it's not embarrassing anymore. It becomes jokes. Hassan's able to laugh about it. He's able to kind of move on from it. And he's also able to show that like that's like a very small part of who he is as a comedian and who he is as a person.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like not what the show's about. Like it's a couple throwaway lines.
Sorry, yeah. I don't yeah, good point. Yeah. That's not what the show's about at all. But like talking about Graham, talking about Katie, that just reminded me of that. You know what I mean?
Totally. And I think that like the show is about stereotypes and it's about in-group stereotypes between Asians and Indians and the like absurdity of the even like being AAPI, right? And like 48 countries that are all these different, and it's what I think to me was the most interesting as I was sitting there watching it and laughing so hard my face hurt afterwards. Yeah. But what I thought was so interesting was that comedians and people on the left have gotten a really, and at times deserved, reputation over the last several years of being humorless and of not being able to make fun of ourselves or not being able to make fun of each other and being snowflakey and, you know, the PC police, the politically correct police. And I've always sort of struggled with that or just sort of been confused about how we ended up with those designations. I obviously understand how we have in the ways that like Twitter and we've policed people online, but all the Democrats and all the lefties I know tell the most off color, like have the most disrespectful because when like it's the laughter of the oppressed, right?
100%.
Like Black people tell the worst oh my God, the things we say. And part of that is because when you're a part of an oppressed or a marginalized group, humor is so much a part of how you reconcile the world in your life, you know? And so the fact that we're the ones that have the reputation for not being able to take a joke or tell a joke, or like woke's ruining comedy and all these bros, so many of whom have walked that back. It's just like, no, just evolve and use different words and
That's
like think about punching down versus punching up or punching out, you know?
Right.
That's actually what the dynamic is, the one that you need to be aware of. So watching these guys do that, I think, was such a great exercise in just sort of going for broke and just being like, dude, say what, like this stuff is funny.
So
I'm not
funny.
going to pretend like it's not. I'm not going to, we all know this is funny. We all know we tell these jokes behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So let's just do it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
And you're kind of, as a community, right? And different nationalities, because every race, no race is spared, right?
No.
It is the most, I mean, literally when Ronnie came backstage, Twig and I, we unpacked, and literally it's the first thing he said. He was like, I'm sorry for how racist this show was, right? Like it was a full on like exploration, honestly. Like if you were look at it like what's it called? If you look at it like surgically, it was an exploration of stereotypes. Right.
Totally.
It was a debate and exploration of stereotypes. And there's a lot of truth in stereotypes, and there's a lot of just like straight up lies and, to your point,
just like generalization, laziness.
And in some cases, ways of suppression, right? Like that is a form of control, is to like use these broad stereotypes to keep people down. But the way that they were using these stereotypes in a way of like calling them out, it kind of gives, there's a huge debate. A huge premise of the show is just which race is better, Asian or Indian? Like that is what we're talking about here. And it was fucking hilarious. I mean, each stereotype and trope that they were going through, being able to say it out loud, to your point, Democrats, progressives, we, for whatever reason, got lazy and we got afraid of saying it out loud. And we just thought if we just don't say these things, then that somehow prevents these things from ever being said. But in a way, it backfired. In a way, it gave it more power, right? It gave more power to people because we were like, oh, we can't say these things or else that's the way people are going to think of us, right? And it's like, no. That's not true. If we say the things out loud, people will know that that's not all we are, but we're also acknowledging that that's the way we are viewed, right? Like, you have to be able to like surface this shit, And I agree with you. We got so lazy. Could you imagine this show premiering like 6 years ago?
No. I mean,
like, it would not have happened.
No.
Yeah.
They would have, but no. They would have, no. They would have gotten in so much trouble.
They would have gotten in so much trouble. And, I don't know.
Before anyone had even seen it.
Right.
Like that was always one of the things that was so annoying about that era of just like people wouldn't have read the thing or seen the thing or it's just like give it a chance. Will you just chill out? And
well, that bit got Ronnie in trouble among my community because, some of my viewers know, Twig knows, like I did a lot of organizing around the Asian American Pacific Islander political community, which is a mouthful. And Ronnie's bit on The Daily Show, which was hilarious, where he was just like, it's bullshit. Like that whole designation, he's coming at it from a foreign perspective, but he's like, there's nothing similar from Indian Americans than Chinese Americans and Korean Americans and Cambodian Americans. And specifically, he was like, Indians are not Asians was his big argument. And you can imagine people in this town hated that, right? Like there's a lot of work and there's a lot of like, how are we building coalitions and how are we organizing? How are we seeing and including South Asians in the community? And so much of last night was him exposing in a beautiful and brilliant way that they are different, but also they're the same, right? It all became about the duality, right? we're all human. We're all ultimately the same, but also let's not like beat around the bush here and flatten everything out and flatten out all these experiences and cultures and languages. Like that's stupid too.
Yeah.
You know? And again, you're right. Like, I don't think that we weren't ready to have that conversation as Democrats perhaps until now. I think we're now having these conversations more thoroughly.
I think it's like a trend like anything, right? We would have been able to have that conversation 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, and then we sort of weren't able to have it. It just, things go in and out of fashion.
Right.
Certain ways of talking, thinking, laughing go in and out of fashion, you know? And I think that we have not... Part of one of the problems about so many, again, this isn't just Democrats, this is humans in general, but one of the issues that we have, I think we really need to be thinking about as we go forward and and rebuild institutions and rebuild movements and ways of interacting is how do we keep things dynamic?
Yes.
Democrats in particular have a really bad habit of being like, okay, we won that. Now we never have to organize around it again, whether or not it's, and then just like getting caught flat-footed when things get hairy, or when something that we've thought
affirmative action is a perfect example.
Affirmative action is a great example. And I think that if we had started to be more responsive, like affirmative action has been attacked since it's been implemented. And instead of just being like, we've won, it's settled, the majority is with us. If we had continued to maybe listen to some of those critiques and evolve and talk about it as meritocracy programs, like it'd be a lot harder to pull away DE&I programs if they were all called meritocracy programs.
Yes, 100%.
Or whatever. And it's a semantic argument, and maybe it's not that simple. And I think that we were not as willing to be responsive to changing climates and changing temperatures and confusion as we could have been. And that's hard work to do at scale. So I'm not naive about that. But I think these guys are really signaling a vibe shift around humor and around what you can say. And like the right can't be the only people who are being subversive and offering humor in a spicy way around these like assumptions that we've made and these systems we've built that are kind of dumb.
I agree with you. And also, here's the thing. I mean, we can also place blame on the comedians too, right? Because I don't know. I felt like this was a very fresh show. I think that, speaking of affirmative action, Ronnie in the show says like, thank you, Asians. We destroyed affirmative action. Like, there were so many parts of the show that I'm like, yes, that's so funny. And also, yes, that's actually kind of true as well.
Totally.
And we should be able to talk about it. And I think that you're right. Like, I think that, you know, the sort of like progressive politics, and I would include the Daily Show in this as well, right? Like, became maybe not lazy, but I think it became so easy to just beat up on the right. And we didn't do enough of questioning and sort of attacking, you know, things that we sort of just presume, to your point, that we're done with that now. That issue is done with.
Yeah.
Right? Like, affirmative action is a perfect example of this. But I think you can go through, I mean, honestly, like a lot of the issues where we're failing right now on are all things that should have been interrogated in the same way from comedy, not just politics. You know?
And that's how you end up being out of step, right?
Yeah.
If you don't evolve your ideas and your policy platforms and your values to communicate in the like lingua franca of the day,
Right.
then they become stale and they become out of step, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the, and I think that's an important value that we need to really have in the fabric and the DNA of how we think about all the rebuilding that has to happen. And one of the things from the show that I'm actually just thinking about now as a result of this conversation is Democrats, or the left in general, really seem to get away with the idea that you can be both oppressed and the oppressor, right? And that was very much a theme of the show last night, of like, you can be a marginalized group, particularly if you're in this country.
Yeah.
But you can also then oppress other marginalized groups, oppress people within your group,
Yes.
right? And so that, you know, intersectionality we talk about a lot, but we have gotten away from our willingness, or we had gotten away, and I think it's starting to come back a lot more. We had gotten away from a willingness to acknowledge that all of us contain an ability, like that the concepts of power, concepts of privilege, they're all relative. It all depends on who you're standing next to. You can put me in a group and I will be you can put me in a group of white people and I will be the most privileged person in that room.
Yes.
Intergenerationally, like no matter what, right? You can get some folks from the holler in West Virginia who have not had the kind of structural support that I've had, my parents had, that their parents had.
Right.
And then you can put me very easily in a room and I'm the least privileged person, right? So all of this just depends on who you're around and who you're surrounded by. And I think that was also one of the themes of the show.
Yeah.
That was really cool and really thought-provoking. I hope they turn it into a TV show, and I just hope there's so many more shows like that.
Me too. I like it. It was like an hour and a half. It went by so quick.
Yeah.
And that was the original thought I had was I wanted more of it. The other thing that Ronnie said backstage, which I didn't realize until he said it out loud, and he was just like, we didn't really talk about white people at all either. Yeah. We didn't make this show about white people because I think that there is that binary, right, where you have, a comic of color or, a comic who's non-white. And when you talk about race, it's always in the binary of white people and the oppressed group.
Yeah.
And the proximity to power and the white people keeping the whatever it is down. And there are so much there. I mean, there's a rich history of it.
Absolutely.
From like Eddie Murphy
exist.
to Richard Pryor to, like and there's so much humor from it. But this show is so unique because it was Asians and Indians fighting against each other with a nod to whites in a variety of different forms, particularly in dating white women. There was a debate about which group does a better job of dating white women. But it was always as a punchline. It was never necessarily as like, how are we, what is our approach to white power or white supremacy?
Well, was it a relief in reaction to so much discourse around marginalized group identity is often really a discussion of whiteness, right?
Yes.
It's really actually a discussion about like what space we occupy that we have been given,
right,
or how we've reacted to that oppression and therefore built this culinary tradition or this musical tradition or this whatever. And so it's also, my dad grew up in the Caribbean, and there's such a distinct, like he just grew up in an area that was mostly black.
Yes.
And so for him, he's like the whole world's black. I mean, maybe not like in this group, but like he has such a black majority mentality.
Yes.
And that represents a totally different thing where whiteness and your identity are not related necessarily, right? And so I think that was really present in this show of them just being like, not everything we do, not everything we are, not all of our communities in response to this kind of center of gravity.
It wasn't at all. That's what I loved about it.
American center of gravity. Yeah, it was
delicious. It was almost a dismissal of, or like,
and rightly so.
Rightly so. It's such a great point. I love that too, because that's always like my favorite. If you watch like old black artists, like that's the favorite trope of white journalists being like, what was it? Is like your oppression from white people the reason why you are like Miles Davis? Brilliant interview with Miles Davis, and he was like, no.
Like,
no, I just love playing music. Not everything is about your whiteness.
Totally.
Right. And you're right. I thought that they just nailed it. It was so funny.
Is this going to be the longest segment on the show?
Yeah. I mean, we may need to cut some of it. Also, I'm sure Ronnie and Hasan will be like, guys, this is enough. Too much. But we want to thank Ronnie for letting us come through and letting us hang out.
Thanks, guys.
It was very cool. We should do some housekeeping though. We are now in a regular pace. So again, reminding folks, we are everywhere. We are launching a TikTok. We've been saying that. We've been saying it. Some time. It's going to happen. It's finally going to happen. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple. Follow us at Twig and Jenkins. Our Instagram handles, Carri Twig, at Brad Jenkins. Our website, twigandjenkins.com, where you can get merch. And the other big thing is subscribe to all those things and like let folks know about the show, right?
Absolutely. Share with your friends. Sharing is caring.
And we are now officially, our release schedule are Tuesdays and Fridays. Every week. If we don't do it, it's probably my fault. I will take all of the blame. But Tuesdays and Fridays. And then keep those emails going. What's the email address, Twig?
twigandjenkinspodcast@gmail.com.
There we go. Speaking of, we'll be back very soon. Things to cover, we don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? It's always a little morning of surprise.
Yeah. I mean,
Very
you never
fun.
know. There might be a new AI video of Trump
Ugh.
taking more shits on, the American people.
Gross.
protesting.
I mean, honestly, it's psychotic. It's completely unhinged.
It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you for listening. Special shout out to our supervising producer, Elizabeth Wyndham, our podcast extraordinaire, all things, Erica Anderson, Ray and Nicole of Culture House. Twig and Jenkins is a Culture House and enfranchisement production.
And thank you to our homie Elon Yu for our design and our merch. And we're going to get some new stuff coming to you guys very soon.
Halloween costumes on deck, bro.
Oh, actually, that's what we should ask for. Recommendations for Twig and I for our Halloween costumes. I don't know when we're going to record with our costumes on, but last year we did it, so we have to do it this year. Last year we went as skeletons.
Yeah. Because you already had a skeleton outfit.
I already had a skeleton
I went and
outfit.
got one.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if we'll coordinate again this year.
I mean, people should throw in some recommendations. What would be a really great duo costume in this moment? You know what I mean? Like, do we go as J-Lo and Ben Affleck? Do we go
Ronnie and Hassan.
as Ronnie and Hassan? There's so many options. We'll see.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.